Hello, everyone, and welcome to Impact and Influence. Today, we're going to talk about how to increase engagement and business momentum in uncertain times. I also have a special guest with me. I'm really excited to have Adrian Miller here. She is the founder and CEO of Premier Business Coaching and Consulting. She partners with business leaders to show them how to work through complex problems, mental roadblocks to build successful organizations. She's a certified entrepreneurial business and leadership coach. She has a degree in business management and a master's in human resources and organizational development. Welcome, Adrian, to today's episode. I'm excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Nancy.
Awesome. And so my name is Nancy Michelli, for those of you who don't know, and I am a leadership communication coach. So I was an engineer turned coach after 25 years of working in the oil and gas industry. And now I am on a mission to create happy workplaces for people to enjoy showing up by helping leaders become better communicators with their teams. So today, Adrian and I had met earlier this week to chat about an amazing topic, and we came up with this idea of how to increase engagement and business momentum in uncertain times. Lots of organizations are experiencing uncertain times, and as Adrian is stepping into the world of coaching and business coach, maybe Adrian, you can start with this concept of what led you to the idea of starting your business as a business coach?
Well, interestingly enough, I wasn't looking towards certain times right now of uncertainty, but definitely during that time of COVID where I was witnessing many people just starting new companies and new businesses, and things were thriving because things were at home and we're in this totally different environment where everything is virtual. And I have a couple of friends who naturally just had to pivot from the medical field or other fields where, they were once essential, or where they had to come on site every day and their organizations shut down and closed their businesses. And they turned to new businesses. One person I know started making candles, and it actually just blew up. But towards the end of COVID, people were realizing that, I'm having to supplement my income by going back to work. I'm kind of slowing down on this business, but I really have a passion for it. And so I decided to just take a really deep look at the skills that I can offer and say, hey, there's a way that you can continue your business and continue to revitalize this business and build it up to scale. There are just many ways to do that people get a little bogged down or disappointed in, not moving forward. And just being able to lend a helping hand with coaching and moving past those roadblocks and going, okay, you know what? I can do this. I can have this business, or my business is, lacking a little bit. I can keep thriving when things are on a little bit of a downturn. And so, just helping those folks not to give up and quit right away.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know that people recognize how much effort it is to start a business, right? To move into that. You get this little ball rolling, but how do you actually build it to a big enough business that's bringing in you enough income that you can potentially step away? As well, even big corporations, right? As you said, COVID was this weird, uncertain time of how do we show up? What do our leaders look like? How do we communicate online, right, in this transition? And people are going back and forth as well between this world of working at home to some companies going, nope, we want you back in the office, right? And this mixture
Absolutely.
of remote. And so it's uncertain for businesses. It's still uncertain for people and even small business leaders and entrepreneurs. So what are some of the ways that your company helps support business and entrepreneurs, especially with some of this uncertain activity?
Right. So like I mentioned before, what I like to do is get with that business leader, and many of them are entrepreneurs, or, some of them are new, some of them have been around for a few years. And what I'm really noticing is that, that creeping in of doubt and things like that. So I take them under the coaching umbrella and just look at mindset, look at things to revitalize the company, different ideas as far as examining the product and the service, right? Is there anything more you can do? What little thing extra that you can add? One of the companies I frequent is a small company, and they're in a food industry, and literally just adding a bib, and that they do seafood. She added a bib and added a little, a fork and a little, crab cracker. And it was one of those things that I never get this from anywhere, and she's this really small business and frequents the farmers markets a lot, so
Thanks.
Just taking a deep dive and deep look at, even small things along with big things like you and I are doing now, collaborating with other people, and figuring out other ways how to reach out. People really don't use social media as a business platform. There's hundreds and thousands that are doing it, but then there's some that really go, I'm really new to this. What other ways can I utilize, social media? So just looking at all those different areas of realizing the full potential, examining the product, the mindset, the communication, and just understanding how to reach their clients. So, those are some of the things we look at when we start coaching.
Nice. So as you mentioned, right, you got into this concept of how communication, right? And communication is, in my opinion, one of the most powerful tools that we have, right? And there are so many different ways to communicate. And in uncertain times, communication is that one thing that if you can learn to do it really well, will help you move your company, your business. Doesn't matter how big it is or how small it is, right? When we can communicate better, we can actually start to have more influence, more impact, which is also why I call the show Impact and Influence, right? Is through this idea of communicating, right? We can have more impact, more influence. And so maybe what we can do is I'll have you take it from the small business perspective and I'll take it from the large corporate perspective. And we can talk more about how we can get engagement of people, whether it's employees in our small business or a big business, in relation to using communication. So what is maybe one strategy that you have seen or experienced in your career that you think is helpful for people to remind themselves of right now?
First and foremost, I think especially in uncertain times, what's most important is being authentic and being consistent in your communication, and actually being, vulnerable in that communication, and just really keeping it real. What's really going on? Don't hide the truth. You can't say one thing's happening and then, I've experienced that as well. I think we were talking before, and I worked in Silicon Valley for a little bit and went through the huge layoffs after 9/11, right? And what happened was we ended up having to go through it twice. And it was detrimental because, you're looking at this, well, it wasn't a startup, but it was a small firm, a semiconductor firm. And it was just where it made such an impact to where they ended up having to do 2 layoffs. Going through one is also already like a huge mental stress. And then having to do a second cut. Right. So it's, you look back and you look at it and things like that and go, why weren't you really honest with what was going on in the first place? Right. Did you really think that we were going to survive with, instead of cutting 80 people right off the top, you did 40 and then put everybody through this huge mental stress the second time. Right. So be honest with what's happening, what's going on in the business during the uncertain times. And, and sometimes I feel like communicating that you can get feedback from, even a small business, as far as, one company I know, it's 100% family owned, but there's at least 5 people that work in the putting the business together. everybody needs to know what's happening and be on the same page. And I think, first and foremost, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I have been through companies that have downsized, and even COVID, right? One of my roles when we came to COVID is I remember the day that I got a call from the oil company that I was running a major project with. And they were like, Nancy, we have to get everybody off site. And I went from having this great big team to being able to go out and have a conversation with each of them and say, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't know what is going to happen. Right. At that time, it was like, oh, this is only 2 weeks, right? Which turned into 2 years. Right. But it was going out, and some of those guys were easier to work with because they were electricians. And so there was a lot of work. Still, they were used to this constant unionized of they come in, do a project, and then go back to the union hall and then get dissipated out to other companies. So for them, it wasn't such a big shock. But for my engineering team, my design team, right, of people who had done phenomenal work, for me, there were a couple things going on. One is I didn't know what was going on, right? None of us knew what was going on back at that point. And so having that honest conversation with them and saying, we're doing the layoffs, we hoping they're temporary, but we really don't know what the future is going to hold. And then also recognizing that I didn't get to celebrate with my team the success that they had done on this massive project, which for me is so important to recognize people when they did well. But it is that, right? When you're going through uncertain times, you as a leader don't know all the answers. But I think sometimes leaders think they need to show up as being perfect, right? Showing this image that we got it all figured out, we've got a plan. And so therefore they don't communicate as well as they could.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I was, where you were talking about that, I was thinking that as well. It's people worry about saying that I don't know, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. But you have all these faces staring back at you as a leader, and think that, gosh, like I'm supposed to know. What are they going to think if I don't know the answer? But there's some a little bit of what's the word for it? Not calm, but just knowing that yourself, that, okay, you know what? Putting that out there and being vulnerable that you don't know, that's got to at least bring a little bit of peace to that leaders. Like, I've shared everything that I could possibly share. They know that I'm not holding anything back. And, but that can be, I can see how that can definitely be something a leader would struggle with, right? That I don't know.
Saying that I don't know. I think the other thing that leaders miss regularly, and I've seen this in big corporations, right, who are going through downsizing, who get this, oh my gosh, our financials are going down, right? Our board of directors is saying, no, you need to show up and do things differently. One of the biggest mistakes or opportunities, I guess, that leaders have that I don't know that they necessarily always consider is that they have a team of really talented people who've been working for them. And sometimes when you show up as vulnerable and say, I don't know, let's sit down and brainstorm, your team may be able to come up with the solutions that you don't have. You have to be willing to be open and communicate and build that relationship of team building. What is your thoughts around that concept?
Around team building?
Well, around during a downflow, like engaging your team even more to provide some of the solutions or suggestions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think during the pandemic, that it was a huge opportunity for that, and probably many missed opportunities during that time for that, because everyone was home and, isolated, and instead of a lot of reaching out saying, okay, you know what, how are we going to go from here to do this? It was And granted, the anxiety and the fear and the panic set in and kind of everything, right? And your whole daily routine change, right? I'm not going to see these people face to face, but embracing, even just after a couple months, and there were still people not embracing the fact that, okay, I can communicate with this person over the phone or even WebEx, or we use WebEx, Zoom, all that great stuff. Any of these kind of communications where you could see that person face to face, and you still get a personal connection and take advantage of, like you said, brainstorming and reaching out and going, okay, you know what? Prior to COVID, we were in the office, we were having these meetings, we were throwing things up on the whiteboard. Is there any new software we can use? Is there, how often do you think we should meet? Instead of going an entire 2 months, because some people just needed that connection even weekly if they were sitting home alone, it was important. And so instead of missing those opportunities, I think it's important to keep that engagement anywhere you can. If you are on site, great. Some people hate a weekly meeting. I know some groups meet, in the morning for 10 minutes every day, but, trying to keep that set schedule as much as you can, even if you just say, okay, you know what, we're going to check in today. How's the project going? How is, if you don't have anything to discuss, give the people their time back. 30 minutes, 15 minutes. And, that's important to people too, right? Everybody's picking up and getting completely busy right now. So it's like, then take that 15 minutes even to, instead of just going, oh, I don't have anything new or I don't have anything to discuss today, and just do a check-in, do a personal check-in. Yeah. How's everything going? What's on your desk? I think it's important just to maintain, as a leader, that connection of communication on all levels, right? Business and not necessarily personal. I know people who don't want personal relationships at work, but at least enough to where, I can, if I am having a problem and Nancy calls me and, we don't have anything specific to discuss, but you know what? I'm going to share with you today that, I'm struggling with this proposal or what have you, because we've built that rapport and I'm comfortable enough to share it with you. Yeah.
And I think that the word rapport, you just used the word rapport. I think that's really important for leaders to develop and realize that different people have different ways of building rapport, right? And different levels. Because as you said, right, you have some who don't want to share things emotionally and others who are more quiet. And as a leader, one of those skills, whether you've got a big business or maybe you just have a business of 2 or 3 of you, or maybe it's even with like your spouse, right? Is like, how do you want to build rapport? We can get into that. But how do you build rapport, right? How do you make an effort as a leader, as a business owner, to build rapport with your team, with your clients, with people both in and your suppliers, right? So that you can get through this uncertain time. And so I think rapport building is a really critical skill for all leaders and business owners to have, regardless of the size of your business, regardless of where you work, whether you're at home or in the office. Like, rapport building is probably one of the most powerful tools that you can have as a leader to engage people and gain business momentum.
Absolutely. I think that I was going to ask you where you were speaking of that, because I know you work with, you're working with higher level leaders, and what type of tools do you use for that, or what advice would you give to some of those leaders who need to build rapport with their organization or their during their leadership?
So for me, I do a few different perspectives. The one that I find is the most powerful is I teach something known as the process communication model, which was developed by Dr. Tabby Kaler in collaboration with NASA. Because unlike you and I, right, at the end of the day, we can go home, But when you're in a spaceship, right, I can imagine that at the end of the day, it's like there is
Oh
no
my
real end
gosh,
of the
yeah.
day, right? And being able to build communication also between like the space station or the rocket ship as it's going up and the ground and Earth, right? There's a lot of different techniques. And so I really love the process communication model because one of the things it does is it helps leaders identify two different things with people. It helps them identify their preferred way of communicating. So it helps them go, okay, I need to communicate more emotionally with this person, or this person is just wants direct feedback and information.
Mm-hmm.
And so it teaches leaders how to adapt that style. But the other thing that's really cool about it is it teaches leaders how to identify distress patterns in their team
Huh.
and in themselves so that they can understand, right? We hear a lot about people who micromanage or people who are pleasers, right? And so it helps you identify which distress pattern each of your team members have and how you can offer them suggestions and actions in their day to help them
Ah.
get out of that. And when you do, you start to understand what motivates that person and what engages them to move forward. And so as a leader, I think it's probably one of the best tools that I've actually experienced and seen in that process. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
What about
I
you?
haven't taken that one. That's good to know.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool, and I'm actually going to be facilitating a training of that in October, which I'm excited to be hosting. But the leaders that I work with who take it really start to notice even improvement among their team communication,
Mm-hmm.
where drama and conflict comes up. They notice that helps reduce that as well when their
Wow.
team can start to recognize, oh, this person, I need to treat them this way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
That is
So what's an
great.
example of a tool or something that you have used in the past to help leaders communicate better or that you'd like in relation to communication?
So I like to help leaders learn just the basic concepts of coaching,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So engaging in that more of a asking,
Mm-hmm.
inquiry and appreciative inquiry of what they're doing, right? Try to steer near, stay close to the positive aspects of what happened or what positivity you can bring to that, as well as just going through asking the questions of, what's the situation right now? That soccer model of, what outcome are you expecting and what consequences are would you go through if you don't make a change, or what are you looking forward to happening when you do go through this change? And I, when I work with the leaders, that's what I tend to go through, right? That model of helping them communicate with them, because many times they don't know what questions to ask, or it's just really cut off short, or they go straight into advising, right?
Right. Yeah.
You should do, and helping them learn just basic models of communication with coaching tends to help just go through that conversation, and then you can really get to what that person is needing at that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I also feel like many times it's a way to let that, on top of building the rapport, right? You're letting that person know that we can communicate, we can talk, and your ideas are valued, right? Because in coaching, you're really pulling out from that person, helping them think of their ideas, and and most people follow. Once you come up with your own idea, you're most likely to follow that idea and go through with it, right? And showing support for that, And of course, there's different times you can do that, right? If somebody absolutely doesn't know what's happening and you're that business leader, then yeah, you're going to step in and take charge a little bit. But giving that person the opportunity, to go through what's happening, what steps they want to take to get there, and offering them a chance to even find their own solution, right? I think is key. It's important.
Yeah, I think that's one of the areas that leaders don't get trained in enough, is just asking good coaching questions, right? There's lots of good books out there on it, but it's really, for me, I found when I was in leadership roles, it wasn't until I learned to practice that with like a coach, right? With somebody, we can go pick up all the books we want, but you become better at it when you take like a program that teaches you the language and you actually practice it back and forth, right? In those conversations, in those experiences. One of the other things that I like to do from a difficult conversation or helping empower is recognizing that you and the other person are both on the same side, and that it's not about the people, it's about the problem, right? And so how can you work together, right, to brainstorm those solutions and to facilitate, as a leader, those ideas out of your team, whether that's one person or it's a bigger group, right? And I think when you can start to facilitate your team by using good coaching questions, by asking them really inspiring questions, and sometimes as a leader stepping back and just allowing their ideas to shine, you can really build momentum, right? You can build new ideas, suggestions for your business to move it forward. And during uncertain times, I always believe that our team is the solution to the answer.
Great point. That's a great point. And you're right. You're right. Because they want, instead of sitting there in silence and not knowing what's happening, I think continuing that engagement and having people offer up those ideas, it's helpful, right? You continue your momentum, you continue, the synergy between the team, and just, you're not just sitting out there on an island waiting for something to happen to you, right? It's that you're being responsive to the situation.
Yeah. And I think one of the best benefits for a leader when they are willing to facilitate and engage their team, they start to build trust in that team. They start to build opportunities where you could take a day off and your team is going to show up and perform really well, right? Or you can go on vacation and you can take your phone and be like, okay, I can put this away because I know my team is going to show up and make the right decisions and move our business in the right space because they have developed that trust. They have developed that really incredible ability to communicate, to collaborate, right? To do those things. And so as a leader, not only do they start to trust you, you start to develop more of a trust for them. And you can take sometimes the weight off of your shoulder and share it and help lift it to a place of success.
Absolutely. Yeah, it reminds me, anytime someone asked about, who would you model your, leadership behavior after? Or, you always have that question of who is your greatest supervisor or your greatest manager and all that stuff. And, and I always think back to one person, and it was just amazing how she can do just what you're talking about. If the team was like floundering or if somebody needed help, like no one ever hesitated to offer extra help, stay longer, do anything. And it just, and when I think back on some of the, it wasn't even anything miraculous. She was just the same person with everybody. She was so genuine and made a special connection with everyone. You knew her door was always open. You could ask her anything. And she made sure to, make that connection with you. Like, well, Nancy, where do you see yourself in the future? What do you really want to do? Yeah. And it was just that genuine connection that she made that made it very pleasant to work there. And there was a team, there was great teamwork environment, and everybody was willing to, lend a helping hand when, when things were excessively busy or someone was out sick or, you name it. And we just never had, a major issue. It was just, and it's funny because you think now, you're like, how did she do it? There really wasn't anything miraculous besides communicating and making that connection,
Yeah. And it's so important as companies are trying to figure out what to do, where to go forward, how to grow, how to build momentum. It is connection with your team. It's connection and communicating are really the keys to success. And I am so grateful to have worked for a really good manager. He was my first one of my professional career. And we were able as a company, as a group, to do some really incredible things. And to be honest with you, our unit that we were working in back then was on the chopping block. But he always showed up with this energy, and inspired us as a team to come up with ideas and solutions. And we ended up being the unit that was saved because he led through the team. He figured out how to really encourage us, to motivate us, and to support us. And that company was linked to a German company. And so if he went to Germany, he'd be like, Nancy, you're in charge. I trust you. Make the decision. And when he came back, if the decision was something that he didn't agree with, he coached me through why he would have done it differently, but he never ever made me feel that my decision was wrong. And he supported the decision I made. And that was like an incredible perspective. It was incredible.
That's an incredible feeling
for somebody.
Yeah.
And I look at companies right at the moment who one of their big uncertain things is employees moving, right? We started this conversation, of people building their own businesses and saying, no, I want to do my own thing. Yeah. Or employees going, you know what, I want to work at home. I don't want to work in the office. Or even employees who are just changing and quitting because, and the reality is leadership and your ability to communicate and connect with the individuals is really what will keep them there, will keep them motivated and keep them performing at the top of their game.
Absolutely. I think it builds it'll build that loyalty, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I see a lot of people leaving because they're in toxic environments, right? I mean, why would you want to show up to that when you can find another job and work from home or, you know, start your own business or, that kind of thing. But, which is also led by poor leadership, right? When you walk into a toxic environment, there's some things that aren't being taken care of and handled and people not being held accountable and, is a huge problem a lot of people face too. But, absolutely. I think, when people are looking for that, opportunity outside, I mean, let's be honest, I'm in California, many times it's money, right? for this side, there's a huge, we're in the Bay Area, so it's, there's lots of competition,
right?
And many people, they move around a lot, so there's lots of competition there. And so being able to, which is all the more reason why, right. To be able to engage and connect with your, with your staff and with your organizations and all these people that you have to be able to, kind of find that, loyalty connection of, this is a great place to work. I want to be here. And then, necessarily just jumping for money isn't a big deal. People feel valued and people feel important in their role and what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, because money holds us for a short period of time, right? It's like, that's the carrot. But then after you've had a couple paychecks, it's like, okay, that's not my norm, right? What holds the person to stay, right? And it's really that leadership, that communication, that desire to want to work for that person. And so for me, that's my mission, right? Is really helping leaders create a space that people want to work for you. People want to show up every day excited. You pay them well, right? You pay them an appropriate competitive salary, but you can do that because they will help your company create momentum, build success when you do keep those really incredible people. And you also mentioned the difficult people and dealing with those. And I think that you and I could probably do a whole another 45 conversation on, and maybe we will do.
Maybe, yes.
But yeah, that's another really great topic. But Adrian, I want to take a few moments and just thank you for your time today. This has been awesome to chat with you. You being in California on the other side of the US, and I'm up here in Canada near Detroit, on the Canadian side of the border. It's really great to be able to connect with you, to understand more about your business, what you do. Can you take a moment and just let everybody know where they can find you and how they can connect with you if they're looking for business coaching? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I can be found on Instagram and Facebook under Premier Coaching with Adrian. And the website is premierbusinesscoaching.org. You can find me there and connect that way. There's a, contact us link there, and you can see that. And I'm
wonderful.
Available. I'd love to chat with you. And thank you so much for inviting me on, Nancy. And It just reminded me when you were saying that, one thing we were talking about communication is you being all the way in Canada and I'm here in California, and, we're still able to make this connection. And just one reminder to be intentional. Be intentional about connecting with your staff, with your coworkers, with your co-owners, and building a successful relationship that way as well. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. And it is, right? Reach out to people, network with people in your industry, in other industries to learn how things are done. I will post Adrian's information all in the show notes below, so you'll have links to her site if you want to continue on. If you are interested in learning also more about the process communication model, there are also links posted below. I run the program regularly. I keep it to 14 people, so it is a small training program that helps you develop the skills that you need as a leader. But thank you very, very much, Adrian. I am so appreciative to have you. I would love to be able to do another one on kind of conflict and dealing with difficult people in the workplace. And thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Please click subscribe below, as I will be posting more and more videos of amazing coaches who are doing things, amazing leaders who want coaching live on here to share with you all good ideas and insights so that you can have greater impact and influence in your business and organization. Cheers, thank you, and have a great day.